I'm still not convinced.
It's got the mindset. It's got the mindset. Look. It's got the.
They didn't hire me for my intellect. So thank you very much, Professor Baird. It's most interesting. And of course, when I first heard about these theories of the colonial mindset and discussing about a new television broadcaster, which incidentally I'm working on, and obviously I speak English. And I don't even speak proper Scots because my mother used to beat me as a child and correct my English. Anyway, on to our next distinguished guest. See? This next gentleman is part of the UN process, Mr. Sharof Azizov. Azizov.
Yeah.
Azizov.
I will say it. Yeah.
I do apologise.
No worry.
It's the English language culture brainwashing that I've had. I do actually have a very good friend who's Dutch, and I used to correct him and say every time we went for a business meeting, I went, "Could you not just change your name to Frank?" Because they had to spell it every time. It was. I went, "Oh, not again." You know. Anyway. Mr. Azizov, I got it right, it'll not be like that again, is the Executive Director of Justice pour tous International. Yeah, he can correct me, he lives in France. A legal representation organisation, and they're representing Liberation Scotland at the United Nations. So I would like to introduce Mr. Azizov, and he's going to make his speech, and I'll just switch your laptop back on because I switched it off. He's got a microphone.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Sharof Azizov. Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here. It's my first time in Scotland, and I really, really enjoy this joy. Distinguished panelists, honored guests, it's an honor to speak before you today on behalf of Justice for All International, which has the privilege of serving as a legal representative of Liberation Scotland in its engagement with the United Nations Special Committee on Decolonization, commonly known as C24. My presentation is entitled The UN Process, so I will guide you through this process. Because it's time, indeed overdue, that the people of Scotland fully understand and utilize the lawful mechanisms available to colonized peoples under international law. This is not solely a political cause. It is a legal process grounded in the foundational principles of the United Nations Charter and governed by the resolutions of the General Assembly. On 7th March 2025, we formally submitted an advance notice of petition to the United Nations, initiating the procedure of Scotland's recognition as a non-self-governing territory. This submission represents the first formal engagement by the Scottish liberation movement with the international legal framework dedicated to decolonization and the right to self-determination. Our legal basis draws from the following normative instruments. Article 1, Paragraph 2 of the UN Charter, which enshrines self-determination as a founding principle of international order. Resolution 1514 the 1960 Declaration on Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. Resolution 1541, which defines the conditions under which a territory is deemed non-self-governing. And the Resolution 1654, which operationalizes the decolonization process through establishment of a mandate of C24, Specialized Committee. Resolution 1541 sets out 3 conditions for inclusion of on the list of non-self-governed territories. The territory must be geographically distinct from administrative power. Its people must be culturally, ethnically, and linguistically distinct. And the third one, it must lack a full measure of self-government, particularly in conduct of internal and external affairs. Scotland clearly meets all 3 criteria. Geographically, Scotland possesses defined borders, territorial waters, and an international recognized national identity. Culturally and linguistically, it is a home to distinct traditions, legal systems, and languages, Scots and Gaelic, that have historically managed marginalized. Politically, Scotland lacks sovereign power. Its parliament is devolved, not entrenched. Its authority is constrained by the Westminster, and it remains excluded from control over foreign policy, defense, and monetary affairs. There are no theoretical deficiencies. They constitute the basis for Scotland's classification as a subject territory, administered externally and denied effective self-determination. The United Kingdom, as an administering power, bears obligation under Article 74, paragraph E of the UN Charter, including the duty to report on Scotland's political and socio-economic development. It has failed entirely in this regard, obscuring Scotland's colonial status through the myth of voluntary union. Our submission aims to dismantle this myth. The historical record and colonial markers annexed to our 7th-month submission establish that 1707 Treaty of Union was never implemented as agreed. Its central provisions, namely the creation of a new joint state unified parliament, were discarded and replaced by England's unilateral continuation under the rebranded title. Scotland was not joined in union, but annexed. And this act of constitutional substitution has had lasting consequences. The dismantling of sovereign institutions, suppression of cultural identity, structural underdevelopment, and entrenched subordination within the non-consensual constitutional order. Accordingly, our UN advocacy seeks 3 concrete outcomes: recognition of Liberation Scotland as a legitimate liberation movement in line with the Resolution 1514. Second, inclusion of Scotland on the UN list of non-self-governed territories. And the third, initiation of decolonization process under UN supervision, including oversight of any future referendum or independence process. This is an uphill struggle. The Special Committee on Decolonization is not merely a legal forum. It's highly politicized diplomatic space. The United Kingdom, as a permanent member of the Security Council and a dominant voice within the General Assembly, will predictably resist this initiative. But international law does not bend to political power. It stands on legal principles, sustained diplomacy, and the moral clarity of those who demand justice. Our claim is not without precedent. The United Nations has recognized territories which comparable or even greater degree of internal autonomy as non-self-governing territories. For example, New Caledonia remains listed as a non-self-governing territory under UN decolonization framework, despite having held 3 referenda on independence and possessing significant internal authority under 1998 Nomeo Accord. The reason is clear. France retained control over essential sovereign powers, including defense, foreign affairs, currency, and immigration. Another example, French Polynesia was reinscribed on the list of non-self-governing territories by the General Assembly Resolution 67/265 in 2013, despite the objection of administering power France. This reaffirmed the UN's position that internal autonomy alone does not fulfill the right to self-determination. In the absence of a genuine and freely exercised act of political will, Scotland, like these territories, lacks control over fundamental sovereign functions and has never undergone a binding, internationally supervised act of self-determination. Its people have been systematically denied the opportunity to freely and fully determine their political status in accordance with international law. Our advocacy strategy combines international law, diplomacy, and public education. We will continue to brief permanent missions in Geneva and New York. We will organize side events at the Human Rights Council and General Assembly. We will engage with decolonized nations, many of whom once stood before the United Nations with their own petitions for freedom. And we will persistently articulate the legal truth that has been withheld from the Scottish public. This is not a symbolic gesture. It is a procedural beginning of a structured and lawful campaign. If successful, it will place Scotland's future within the protective mechanisms of international law and outside of unilateral discretion of the United Kingdom. Let me close with this. Decolonization is not an act of protest. It is an act of justice. It confirms that no people shall be denied the right to determine their political status, nor to pursue their economic, social, and cultural development, free from external domination. Scotland has waited long enough. It's time to take the legal path to freedom. Thank you.